Oh my god, I hate it here. What's up, my clashers? Welcome back to another trauma dump sesh. That's right, more school stories, because you guys liked the last one, and there was a ton of things that I forgot to mention, so I'm gonna shut up and get into the first topic about IDs. I briefly mentioned the idea of having IDs in the last video, but basically, every day you would have to wear an ID badge to school, and if you don't, you get harassed by the staff until you get a temp ID from the office. And 3 temp IDs would mean you get sent to in-school detention. But in reality, I'm pretty sure that's total bullshit, because I knew guys who basically lived with temp IDs and never got detention. Now, usually, if you didn't have your ID or you were too lazy to get a temp, you have to know who's gonna call you out. Obviously, the chill teachers won't really care. They might tell you to get one out, but they won't get you in trouble for it. Now, almost all of the staff will crucify you if they see you without an ID, unless they look like they relapsed on their alcoholism 2 months into the school year. Then they don't care because they don't want to talk to you. Even if the staff see you without an ID, they probably just don't care. On multiple occasions, I have walked through bag check the entire school, and only by second period do I realize I left my ID at home. Solution: leave it in your bag after school. Problem: sometimes I forget. Solution: get a spare ID from the library. The first one is always free, so just go down there and get one. They always give you a free lanyard and sleeve too, but don't expect that sleeve to last you more than a few months, because they always manage to break around here. You know what? I want to show you guys some of my ID sleeves. This one is for my sophomore year. It's a school issued sleeve, and apart from the ripped top, the only thing that makes this special is that my friend's temporary ID is on the sleeve, and I used to carry this image of the 3 guys from Axel and Harlem. I also just have a bunch of my friends' IDs. I have one on my Chromebook, 2 on a guitar case, and a couple just lying around the house. I don't know what happened to my junior year ID. I either threw it away or lost it while moving. Most likely lost it because I would never throw that thing away. It was this sleeve I bought in bulk at Staples, but it had a problem where if you wore it vertically, the bottom part would just open up, so your ID would fall out of it. My solution was to use duct tape, and when the loop started to rip apart, I just used more duct tape, to the point this thing was being held together by anger and duct tape. Now here's the senior ID. Same kind of sleeve, but this time I used electrical tape because it looks sleeker. I also have a bunch of shit just hanging from it. It's not that damaged yet, but it's only November, so we'll see how it fares for the rest of the year. I don't know how I was able to talk about IDs for this long, but now it's time to move on to something that I should have mentioned in the first video: the phone ban. This year, phones are banned from being used during school hours. First offense gets a warning, and after that, it's 5 days of in-school detention. So your only options are to leave your phone at home. If you drive, leave it in your car, or get one of the $35 Yonder pouches that you have to pay for. Or better idea, just put it in your bag and hope they don't find it. Because as long as you don't have anything in your bag that would set off the metal detector, you'll be fine, because they can't detect phones. They just lie about it so you don't bring it to school. The 2 major side effects of banning phones are that it is now much harder to cheat on your work or tests, which resulted in us dropping from 49th to 51st in education in the span of a few months. But the more important side effect is that without Reels and Clash Royale, what are you supposed to do in class? Now, I get that what you're supposed to do in class is do your work or listen to the teacher, but who really does that? And plus, sometimes you're done with all your work, or you guys are doing actually nothing, so you gotta find a way to spend your time. You could do things like read, draw. I don't know anything else you can do, and those things kind of sound gay. If you have friends that you actually like talking to and they have nothing to do, you'll be more likely to talk to each other. And honestly, it does feel quite refreshing being able to talk to people without them scrolling all day watching people die. Now, if you guys are all on the same radio frequency, this is when shit goes down, because when 3 or more teenage boys are left without anything to do and no phones, that's when the real shenanigans happen. One time, me and my friends were at breakfast, and by the way, breakfast is after first period, and you have to eat it in your first period class. It's stupid, and I don't know why we actually do it, but anyway, we were pretty bored, so my friend, who I consider one of the greatest artists of our generation, pulls out some paper and starts to draw random shit, like just anything we told him to draw, and the only thing I can remember is Homer Simpson with a minigun penis. But then we had to ask the teacher what he should draw, and she said Bart Simpson. So obviously, we had her pull up a reference image on her computer because we don't have phones and it would take a good 3 to 5 business days to turn on the Chromebook. So there we are, a group of 17-year-old boys huddled around our teacher's desk while one of us draws a freakishly deformed Bart Simpson, and all of us are giggling like little boys. Keep in mind, we are all AP students, some of the brightest among our classmates, and I forgot to mention, we are 17 years old and it was 8:40 in the morning. We kept the harassment up for a long time. Like one time we took out the brain from her skull model and filled it with rubber duckies found around the room, put a couple in the eye sockets, and gave it the Habsburg jaw. And here's the photo. Now you might wonder how I took this photo without my phone. Well, you see, I actually had to use my Chromebook's webcam to take the picture, but the quality is really shit, and I have to freeball every photo because I have to face the screen away from me. So if you see any photos I took in the school year, just assume that it was taken on the Chromebook. The other day, we told our psychology teacher a very funny joke that was beyond her comprehension. The joke was, and I quote, "A snake walks into a bar and asks, 'May I have a glass of water?' The bartender says, 'Sure thing.' The snake says, 'Thank you.'" That was the whole joke. It is so unfunny because there is no joke. It is just a sequence of events that have no punchline, and we talk about that for a solid 5 minutes, which is 6 minutes longer than it should have been talked about. This is the same teacher that made us make a video for our brain diagram. So if you're unaware how much we harass her, it's about that much. Now all this is with a teacher who is pretty chill. Imagine what would happen if your teacher does not give a fuck what you are doing as long as you don't disrupt class. Welcome to AP Chemistry, regarded as one of the hardest AP classes that's more readily available than fucking AP Music Theory that's only taught in schools with a demographic of 85% white kids. You would assume that every day we go to class, we would be focused and dialed in to prepare for the exam in May, which is true for most days because the teacher usually just lectures, and I actually listen because I don't even know why. I'm not even going to college. But the guys next to me, every time I look at their Chromebooks, they're on some unblocked game site playing Cookie Clicker, Deltarune, or Balatro. But one day, the school blocked their website, and now they had nothing to do. So one of them grabbed their notebook and started stabbing it with a very sharp pen and ripped it apart. And when I asked him for a piece of paper, that shit was pristine. The teacher saw this go down. He didn't really care. He was just like, why? Don't worry, I too get up to crazy antics. One time our teacher gave us an assignment, so I finished and decided to help out 2 of my friends, and the whole time we were just yelling at each other. One of us would ask, "Hey, is the answer A?" And I would kindly reply, "Oh my god, shut up, you're so fucking stupid." Yeah, it's A, you know, because the hydrogen bonding or something. On one of the questions, one of my friends was confused and asked us for help. I knew the answer. I don't know if my other friend knew the answer, but basically we gaslit him into believing that anything was correct except the right answer. We even tried to convince him the answer was C because the question had carbon, which is C, so it was C. He did get the right answer though, even with our gaslighting, so that meant he was smart. But later I would realize the complete opposite. One day our teacher taught us an important concept, but half the class wasn't there, so we had to reteach it. And since we knew it and already had it locked down, me and my friend decided to play some Clash Royale in my notebook. And it was really shit, because what do you expect? I mean, I did have a sneaky nuke in the back, but you know, anything to pass the time. So we're playing, and I dropped some skeletons, and this motherfucker looks me dead in the eyes and says, "Lightning." And lightning's my skeletons. Now, if you don't know, skeletons cost 1 elixir. Lightning costs 6 elixir. He knew this, by the way, and he's not an idiot either. He is currently taking AP Chemistry, AP Physics 1, and AP Calculus AB. He knows how to do this kind of math, but can't fucking comprehend the value of elixir. For some reason, this was the funniest thing I had ever seen. Funnier than that time my friend showed me these images in freshman year, but I couldn't laugh because the teacher was still lecturing. So there I was, hysterically trying to hold back my laughter, looking like I was gonna cry just because my friend couldn't do basic mathematics. You know, I don't know why my teacher did. You know, I'm actually kind of surprised my teacher didn't beat my ass right there. Remember those guys from before with the notebook? Well, they're still up to no good. When we had an assignment, they thought it would be a genius idea to disassemble a Chromebook. I don't know why they did it. We had work to do, and the teacher saw this. And again, he's not mad. He's just like, what are you doing? And apparently they gave the Chromebook a disability so it couldn't open properly, but it was swiftly fixed with one good crank. Those same guys also were watching a black dude just eat pickles. To be fair, it was kind of funny, and he looked like he was gonna cry. Bro was eating the pickles of doom and despair. Also, this video of him eating a Whopper was the first time I had ever craved Burger King. Why the fuck does it look so divine in this video? Sure, everybody involved in all these stories does sound like a complete moron, but it's better than what other kids do. I had a friend from another school tell me that last year they caught a kid beating it in class. He was using the pocket method where you would unzip your pants and grab it through your hoodie. He was a pocket pooler. At the same school, a kid was peeing around the school. It's like how there are Instagram pages like the UT Austin Pisser where guys go around at night and pee around the campus. But since this kid's high school is not that big, he just peed on the bathroom walls to the point where the staff had to put up a sign that said, "No peeing on the wall." Then somebody caught him in the act and he got snitched on, and that was the end of it. By the way, this school is infinitely better than the one I'm at, except for the sexual deviance. Anyway, I could go more into detail about what we did to avoid work, but I think I'll save that for another time because I have to mention something more important: the school bathroom. Now, you already know about a very specific horror that occurred in that bathroom, but I would like to argue there is something more deranged than taking up the ass in the bathroom, and that is regularly using it. You see, the bathrooms are where many of the school's degenerates congregate to perform strange rituals, such as look at themselves in the mirror, hotbox the whole room, start fights, hide from teachers, and maybe if they're desperate, take a quick piss. This makes the bathrooms a generally unappealing and dangerous location on the school map, so it's very rare to see anybody try to use it because most of the urinals don't have dividers. So if there are multiple people around you, you'll either have to look down, which has the chance of you looking at another man's penis, or look up and free fire and gives you the chance of getting mugged. On top of that, if you ever try to use the stall, they got the thin ass half-ply toilet paper that if you don't have enough of, you'll accidentally finger yourself, and the teacher might walk in because they know what goes down and automatically assumes everyone in the bathroom is secretly there to hit the pen. This is exactly why I was one of the most deranged people in my school last year, because I was the math hall shitter. Every day after 5th period, I would always leave 5 minutes early to take my daily shit. Sometimes they were pretty light, and other days I was fighting for my life just to barely survive. I remember the first time I took a shit in the school bathroom, it was out of pure desperation, but I felt like a hell's angel, and after that, it would just become a part of my routine. But early on, I thought I wouldn't be able to handle this lifestyle. So after school one day, I took a couple laxatives, hoping that I would be able to shit that night and fix my internal clock. But I didn't end up shitting that night, I just did it in 3rd period the next day, and I was back to the post 5th period shits. Finally, I'm going to end on something that's not really important, but I have a couple funny stories, so I'm going to mention it anyway, and that is school emails. Now, there's not really much to talk about when it comes to school emails, because 90% of all emails are fucking Google Classroom notifications. Like, I already got the first notification on my phone, I don't need a second one. That's why nobody checks their email, because it's all fucking Google Classroom, AP Central, and ACT Prep. Fuck off! I also have a teacher who uses Canvas instead of Google Classroom. I don't know why. All you need to do is post assignments, announcements, and resources. Why do I need to make another account just for your class? I also get notifications from Canvas, except it just tells me I have an assignment, and she didn't put a due date on it. And there's no other way to check due dates except look in class. And if you forgot, you just gotta hope your assignment isn't due in 15 minutes. Just because she didn't want to put a due date. Man, I wonder what she does with all that time saved by not putting a due date on my work. Maybe she could put in grades, because the last grade I got was it's like a week ago. It was the brain project. Somehow we got a 98. Now I'm wondering what we needed to do to get those last 2 points. But the grade before that was September 13th. It's fucking November. I don't even know what my grade is anymore. Yeah, I can check the grade site, but that's my grade from back in September. And it's not even accurate. I talked about how I cheated on a stranger observation project in this video. She gave us that project at the beginning of the school year. We turned it in early September, still not graded. If I voice crack, it's because I'm sick. Anyway, she did put a couple grades in. The stranger observation project, I got a 100 in. She put a couple exams in, and that's about it. She still hasn't put in most of the homework. My goat. Minor crash out over. Back to the emails. Sometimes you get an important email, and by that I mean anything but spam. For me, it was people Or Investopedia. I signed up for this beginning of junior year because our homeroom teacher told us about it, and I attempted to put all of my money into Wingstop stocks, never used it again, and then a few months into senior year, I started getting notifications again, cause why the fuck not? I also had a friend who was literally DMing girls via email. He was getting play and winning, although I think the district did catch him, but thankfully his principal respects game and let him off easy. Another fun email to get were surveys. You see, every once in a while, the local school district or state department would send out surveys for us to do, and most of these surveys were about topics like bullying, drugs, education, etc. Now, some of these surveys were supposedly anonymous in order for people to feel like they could be honest without punishment. However, for us losers, it meant we control as much as we wanted without getting caught. So in every survey, you will put the most bullshit answers possible. But let me warn you, if a survey says it's anonymous, immediately assume it's not, because I know damn well these surveys were not private, but I trolled for the love of the game. In freshman year, we had one of these surveys, and I decided to say that I was hopelessly addicted to several hard narcotics, such as methamphetamine and heroin, and I also smoked 500 cigars per day and constantly got into fights at school. And even though this survey was not anonymous, no staff spoke to me about my actions, so I thought I could keep this up. Then a few weeks back, we got another survey about mental health, and I thought it would be funny to put the shittest answers possible. I was with my friends and we were bored, so that's why it made sense. I then proceeded to tell the State Department that I was a loser, I had no friends, everybody fucking hates me, I'm gay, I'm fat, I'm a loser, I'm gay, you know, stuff like that. And I didn't think much of it. I usually do this sort of thing and nothing happens. But then, a few days later, my counselor emailed me about my response, saying she was actually concerned. Now, I don't know how I'm supposed to reply to this. I do have three options though. Either one, ignore it. That's what I'm doing right now. I could tell her I was trolling, which I kind of don't want to do. Or I could do the secret third option, which is to play into it and tell her that I'm depressed, my mom's kind of homeless, you know, and then activate the side quest so I can get that letter of recommendation that she already gave me. Anyway, I'm thinking I'm going to end it here because there are other things I want to talk about, but they deserve their own video, like lunch, activities, track and field. So if you want to see more, let me know. Anyway, shut up.